Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the episode number 28 for Noobs to Pros. I'm AJ, and today we'll be discussing Tier 9 autoloaders. I have two gameplay footage here for you. One's from the T54E1 and the other one's from the Lorr 40T. Now, both of them have somewhat similar playstyle, and at the same time, they're somewhat different. The T54E1 does not nearly enjoy the mobility that the Lorr does, but consequently it is able to deal out a lot more damage a lot more quickly than the Lorr 40T unfortunately can do. Lorr 40T is just a really fast machine, able to flank its opponents really quickly. It does require slightly longer to unload, and consequently it has to be played in somewhat of a different style. So with the T54E1, if you're in somebody's face, chances are you won't be able to get away from them unless you actually kill them or engage them at a distance. So right now what I was thinking on this map is initially that I wanted to go north. You know, I'm starting my way up north. I spot one of their tanks in the middle, and you know, I'm just looking at the map, thinking that, oh, we are kind of thin up here, so I'll see what I can do. One thing to remember with autoloaders is that if you get swarmed, there's absolutely nothing you can do. So you always have to know to some extent how many tanks you're going to face. Now I see most of my team is slowly progressing south, but they are starting to get overwhelmed. The IS-8 especially is kind of in a bind. So at this moment I decide that I'm going to turn around and help the IS-8. That the two tanks going north will have to hold up their own at this moment. And as I slowly start moving towards the IS-8, I initially thought that he would be in trouble to begin with, because he's sort of like overextended with not much support. And I think he was thinking that with the amount of tanks that were spotted, there's no way that he would be the one getting swarmed. But unfortunately for him, the scout platoon had something else in mind. So over here I try to put a shot in this AMX, but unfortunately the AMX is too small of a target and I can hardly get a shot on him. Over here I see a bunch of the scout platoon trying to work this. I said I killed one of them, put shots in the other two. At this point, I have to reload, unfortunately, and consequently the IS-8 kind of like pays for it with his life. At this point, I'm slowly progressing forward. The T54E1's reload isn't that big. 30 seconds isn't that huge as far as autoloaders are concerned. I come across this corner hoping to provide some support, but unfortunately, he kind of like dies right as I get there. I come over here thinking that, I might be able to engage them as they back off. I see this poor Tier 7 TD, and he has absolutely no chance. I put 3 shots into him and I reload. I realize at this moment that the scouts might be going middle and trying to flank me, and that's what I was thinking was going to happen, so I preemptively turn around and anticipate where they're coming from. And I was just waiting. I wasn't so sure whether I was gonna be correct or not, but I was thinking that as scouts go, they probably think that they have the upper hand if they flank me. So I see a tree fall right in front of me. That sort of like confirms my suspicions. Scout number 1 shows his head. I put 1 shot into him, reducing him to pretty low health. The other scout sort of like retreats all of a sudden when he realizes that the element of surprise is kind of like lost for them. And I go out and I'm not that concerned at this moment. These scouts don't have enough health, nearly enough health to do anything to me, because like in an autoloader fight, you're probably going to be exchanging with your life. So if you don't have life to spare, you won't be able to. Here I make a mistake. I shoot in the Leopard prototype, but instead of like going forward, I go in the opposite direction, and that was primarily because like I was concerned he was just going to make a beeline to the base, and so I need to go back and sort of like figure out, try to stop him from doing so. I see, he tries to go up, but then I think like what caught his attention was our push down south was becoming more and more successful. So he kind of like realized at this moment that he needs to go back. So I'm almost loaded at this point. I know the Leopard prototype is making his way back. You know, he stops for a second. I put one shot into him. He, you know, just wings a shot in my direction and it connects. I put 2 shots into him, and now he's running as fast as his little legs can carry him back to base, which at this point I don't think he should have done so, because like if there's an autoloader behind you, the chances are he's probably going to chase you down. He's not going to just let you be. So this shot nearly max rolls and kills him, and I'm kind of like amazed at this point that, you know, I took him out. Now at this moment I kind of like realize that the tanks that are progressing down south don't really have that big of a problem. You know, there's a heavy with them, so it's not really my concern. But instead I spot this T-54E1 sneaking into our base, and so I'm slowly starting to make my way towards him in order to take him out. At first I think he's gonna engage this VK-2801, because most of the times Germany players will take easy kills if they know the match is more or less lost. But the VK sort of like runs away, and the T-54E1 unfortunately doesn't have the time to engage him. Now the T-54E1 as a tank, I love it to bits, except the fact that it doesn't have good mobility. It doesn't have bad mobility, but it has very sluggish characteristics to it as far as acceleration and speed are concerned. Its traverse is pretty decent, so you should not be expecting to sort of like run circles around like tier 9 or 8 tanks. That's just not what this machine is designed for. With Lorr, you can do that. You can probably circle a lot of the heavier tanks which are not that mobile, and you know, probably eat them up. But with T-54E1 you're unfortunately not able to do it, because the top speed and the acceleration are just not there. The other thing that you want to keep in mind is that the T-54E1 doesn't have good penetration. It has only 211 penetration, I think, with its stock gun. Oh, sorry, not with the stock gun, with the gun that it gets, which is on par with the M46. It's the same gun, but except that you get an autoloader, and the M46 doesn't. So it is a good gun, but I mean, a lot of people fire just APCR through it, and you should not be surprised if you go into a battle and you see a lot of like APCR rounds flying in your direction, because the tank doesn't have good pen as it is. I try not to use APCR unless absolutely necessary. Here I'm gonna engage a T-54E1. I will just pause it for a second right there, so because the replay was lagging. So the other thing about if you're facing a mirror match like me against a T-54E1, whoever shoots first will probably do more damage, because you know, if I get my shot off first, my reload, in between reload, is gonna start first, and consequently I'm gonna do more damage. So over here I spot the T-54E1. He fires a shot in anger, but so slowly starts backing off. I see he already lands a shot, and I'm thinking to myself, you know, how long before he can get his tracks up? So maximum time it takes is about 10 seconds. So in my mind I was counting 10 seconds, and I thought the T-54E1 wouldn't have his tracks up, but he repairs, and I track him right there and make sure my second shot counts, and I finish the game with a top gun. Now with the Lorraine 40T on mines, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use my speed to get up into the middle of the map. And you should do that if you have the advantage in mediums and speed and things, and over here we clearly have the better mediums than they do. So I'm gonna make up my way up here, but like the AMX 1390 in front of us, who had a lot of guts but unfortunately paid for his life, I'm not gonna be loaded until like maybe 5-10 seconds up here, so it's kind of risky. If there's enough mediums up here, you will probably get wrecked. The M40, the Patton on their team makes a correct call, or sorry, the Pershing makes a correct call, come up here, tries to dislodge us, but unfortunately for him, it's not gonna turn out so well. So this Batchat, you know, I don't know why he's staring down the IS-7's barrel, even though he knows clearly the IS-7 is looking in his direction. So over here, one of their best players driving his Pershing takes another giant shot, and I'm just waiting, you know, for him to sort of like overcommit before I can take him out. Over here he kind of does. He takes a shot from Batchat, and I don't know how this sort of connected. I just fired in his general direction, and it sort of connects and kills him. Now I see that there's a ginormous heavy tank coming. I nearly don't have enough shells to take him out, so I'm not interested in trading shots with him. I'm just gonna back off and force a reload. The one thing about the Lorraine 40T that you have to keep in mind is its advantage over a lot of the other autoloaders is its speed. It's not the most stealthiest thing. It's not the, you know, the tank with the best burst damage in the game, but it has a lot of speed. It can easily gather speed very quickly, and you can use that speed to your advantage all the time. Relocating and like getting into a better position is always what you should be doing in the Lorraine, because Lorraine in many ways will teach you how to play the Bat Chat effectively. Bat Chat is a very difficult tank to learn how to play. I'm glad I'm going to pick the Bat Chat up once I have a lot more experience playing the mediums than I was before. Like over here, I see the IS-7 has overcommitted onto this flank, and this is what the autoloader is good for. When you have a flank of an enemy tank, you know, you can stick around and unload your entire drum into him. I know he's turning his surge towards me, so I'm probably going to take a shot for my efforts. But trading like 490 odd health for like a tier 10 is not a bad trade in my opinion. I back off, but I don't want to back off too much because this is T-57 spotted right behind me. I don't want him to sort of like unload into me. But I see that, you know, the heavy tanks that are coming up, they should have pushed, they should have tried at least pushing like some people onto the hill. So, you know, we are not just left to take shots whenever we please, but they didn't really contest the hill after the mediums were gone. And, you know, the I-7 on their team sort of like just thought that we were going to do something else. I think he spotted the Bat Chat going after something else on the other side of the map, and he kind of like figured that the Lorraine would be there as well. But, you know, I was unfortunately paying much more attention to what the map was doing than I guess some of the other players were. Over here, I spot the IS-8, and I tried to take a very sneaky shot in between these boulders. I see just the top of his tank, but as I'm about to fire, he moves, and unfortunately it bounces. And so I still want to keep this IS-8 in check. I don't want him to sort of like just come up and like hit us. At this point, I was trying to figure out what the next move would be. I don't want to rush the IS-8 because I know the not the MX, sorry, but the FV215B will be sitting somewhere right in front of this, staring at this ridge. And I know the ISU is sitting there because he was spotted earlier. So I mean, I'm not in a hurry to do anything. Over here, I spot the Panther, sort of like trying to come around, but unfortunately for the Panther, I had clear line of sight to what he was doing. I put 3 shots into him. The 4th one bounces his side, and I sort of back off. I know I was spotted. I don't have 6th sense in this tank, but I know the other Panther will try to take an opportunistic shot. I make him pay for it by putting my last shot into him, and then I sort of like back off. Unfortunately for our T-71, he hung around far too long, and the IS-8 so like plants one right in his face, and you know, it unfortunately kills him. Over here, you know, the IS-8 and the Bat Chat are exchanging shots, and the Bat Chat finishes off one of the Panthers in the distance and just backs off. I don't know whether I would have done that. Honestly, I would have just unloaded into the IS-8, you know, if I had a good shot on him. But, you know, again, the ISC and the FV were right in front. I think he got lucky, then none of them fired. But this time he won't get lucky, unfortunately, because the ISU is sort of like staring in his direction, and he eats one from him. So I sort of like back off now, and, you know, try to figure out if I can get some shots on this Panther. I fired one, but unfortunately it doesn't nearly land as close as to. I know the FV and the ISU fired, so I just come around and take one shot in this IS-8 and sort of like back off again. Unfortunately for us, their FV was working overtime towards the end, and he takes out a couple of our tanks. Now I see this ginormous Doom Turtle sort of like making his way towards us. I'm not interested in taking shots from him. I won't be able to pen him easily, and his gunfire is way too fast because he was not using top gun. I see the Panther, you know, trying to go for the E75. I, you know, go forward while pointing my gun backwards to take an easy shot from him. Now, at this point, I kind of like realize I don't have like good shots. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start to back off and just force my entire clip to reload. The initial plan here was I was gonna put a couple shots in the turtle, hopefully as soon as the FE fires, and then go around and take out the tiger too, and then make a beeline for that ridge in front where that FE was spotted. Excuse me. Now that was the plan, and when you have autoloaders, you'll get some time to sort of like think about these things in between reloads, which is a good thing, I suppose, in my opinion. I know the FE fired, and he sort of like took shots, so he kind of backed off. I just make a beeline. That's now or never. I fire on the tiger on the move. I don't even want to stop to take shots. I fire 2 shots, and I go left of this ridge. I see the tree fall and kind of like realize the FE was paying attention to his map and comes around this side, and then I switch sides and go over the other direction. The FE fires again, and I know I have like about 30 seconds when he reloads, so I have ample time to sort of like unload my shells into him and run away. So hopefully you enjoyed this episode of Noobs to Pros. Feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next episode whenever I get done with it.